Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining me today at Thoughtful Cooking. My name is Greg Flyshaker, and today I'm making a butternut squash soup, and I'll be making that in my Vitamix. So let's see, it looks like I'm starting just before 1 o'clock, and as you can see I have nothing ready, and I haven't prepped anything at all, so if you watch this video you'll be able to see exactly how long it takes me to make this recipe from the very beginning to the very end. So I apologize in advance for the background there. It looks like I have some chicken stock going in the background. But for the butternut squash, the first thing, and you'll notice that I bought my squash, shame on me, already cut. So I did not buy the squash itself and then chop it up. So I bought organic squash, already cubed, just for the convenience factor. And the recipe calls, if I remember, for a little bit over 400 grams. So I'm not going for an exact amount, but getting pretty close to 400 grams so that everything works out. And I'll just put that back in the fridge. And I have been trying to buy my fruits and vegetables, almost anything, organically if possible, just so my family and I don't have to worry about ingesting pesticides. So a tablespoon or two of olive oil in the pan, and splash the squash right in there. And I'll get that going. First things first, get that going on the stove and start to brown up and caramelize the squash so that you have a little depth of flavor in the soup. And this is actually what takes the most time when making the soup is the squash here. So while that's going, I will then get out my Vitamix. And this is, I forgot the model number, I think maybe a 750, and it has a soup function on it which we will use to heat the soup up. So now I'm just going to get the rest of my ingredients and put almost all of them in the Vitamix. I'm going to hold the cream back, but the recipe calls for 1/4 of an apple, and just carving out a little bad piece there. There we go, get rid of that. And the rest of the apple looks good, so I will cut that up. And off camera, I saved off a little bit of time there, but I cut the apple up, put it in the fridge for kids to snack on later. I think the recipe called for 20 grams or so of onion. I just guessed. I threw some onion in there, and I haven't found that it makes any difference if you use red onion, yellow, white. If you have some onion already cut up, just throw it in. Here's some chicken stock from the previous week. I usually try to make chicken stock once a week, so I need 2 cups of chicken stock. It's always nice to have on hand for sauces or soup, so if you can get into the habit of making some homemade chicken stock, it's pretty handy to have around. So you can see this is straight out of the fridge. It's a little gelatinous and jelly-like, which is fine. Actually, that's the way you want your chicken stock. But in the Vitamix, it'll heat it up, so it'll be, you can throw cold stuff in there and it'll heat it right up. And now I'll just add my spices. Again, I've tried it a few times with a couple different spices depending on what I had in hand. I don't go out of the way to make sure I have the exact spices. I like kind of an earthy flavor, so I'm happy to use cumin if I run out of something else, or just sort of mix and match as I have on hand. I'm not going to buy a brand new bottle just specifically for this soup recipe. So if you haven't used a Vitamix before, this is where it really gets handy, is well, for a lot of things, but soups especially. So make sure you toss your squash every now and then so it gets browned evenly. I'm going to measure out my cream, but remember, don't put it in yet. That's really a finishing touch here on the soup. So it looks like it's been about half an hour that I let the squash roast in the pan. Obviously, it took me a lot less time than that to get all the other ingredients in the Vitamix, but the lengthy time, as I told you, is going to be letting the squash get a little bit of color to it and soft through. So you have time to do a few other things while you're waiting. Put the top on, turn it to soup mode if you have it, and turn it on, and it runs itself. So it'll speed up and then it'll turn off. So let the whole system run. I don't know if you saw the steam there, so it really does heat it up. It's kind of amazing. And pour the cream in, and this one you're going to do more manually. So you put it on a low speed, just dial it up for 10, 20, 30 seconds, just enough to really mix it in, and there you go. You have hot butternut squash soup done in a Vitamix. And you can just see the steam coming off. It doesn't have an element in there. It's just the speed at which it blends will heat your soup up. So there you go. It took about 35, 40 minutes total, and you have a beautiful, smooth butternut squash soup. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.